Hello, welcome back to another episode of Braver New Worlds, a podcast about the stories we need to tell for the future we want to see. My name is Nathan Young. I am your host, and today's guest is entrepreneur, inventor, and community leader Nichole MacDonald. I was really excited to talk to Nichole because she's been a successful entrepreneur and probably the closest thing to a self-made success that I've ever met, even though she might not completely own that label for herself. But she has a very unique company. It's called Sash. It's a bag and apparel company that for women that she's built from scratch. When I first got to know her, as I talk about later in the podcast, it was really unique to meet somebody that had a successful business that was actually selling a product and not, somebody that was had an app or some new web-based thing that they were pushing out there. So she was always just struck me as a very interesting business person in that regard. And we talk a lot about that journey that she had, about how she created her products and how she brought her vision to life, and then all the challenges and self-doubt and things that she struggled with along the way, which are all very real. And she's very forthcoming and honest about all of this, which in a way, I'm always surprised how a lot of business owners will be cagey about a lot of topics that Nichole is very open about. So I really appreciated her sharing her journey in that regard in this episode. And I think one of the big themes you're going to hear in her words is about being of service and listening to the people for whom her business is serving. And even though it's a product and she's selling this product, her product offers a service, and listening to who's buying it and why they're buying it and why they want it and what it does for them. And that seems to have very naturally led her to a very community focused aspect of her business. I think that's just kind of how she is as a person. That's my perspective too. And so that seemed like a natural fit in the way that she brought that to her business. And I think that's part of what I was very excited to talk to her about on here as well. And so there's a lot of great perspective on here for anybody that is a business owner or an entrepreneur, or somebody's you just got that idea that's burning in your head that you think is going to be the most amazing idea ever, and it's going to make you $1 million. Just, I hate to burst your bubble. That idea probably won't. It'll probably be 3 or 4 ideas later, maybe, if you're lucky. But I think there's just a lot of harsh reality that is very valuable for anybody that's looking to start a business that's going to be talked about in this episode here. And you're also going to hear her talk about her journey into advocacy as the former president of the National Association of Women Business Owners in California. She was very outspoken about the tariffs and a lot of other things that happened that affected small businesses over the last handful of years in San Diego and California. And, the courage that it was required of her to really stand up and speak up for these small businesses, was really impressive and is really interesting to see. And just knowing the person that was being on the news and talking about how much the tariffs were hurting small business owners and being willing to advocate on behalf of small business owners on the platforms that she was, it was just really impressive to see. And I was excited to be able to ask her about all that for this episode too. So whether you're interested in entrepreneurship, leadership, advocacy, or just, the surprising connections between building better products and building a better society, I think you're going to find a lot of value from this episode. So without any further ado, let's get into it. Here is my interview with Nichole MacDonald. Nichole MacDonald, welcome to the podcast.
Hi, thanks.
So I always like to start this off by just having you introduce yourself to the people listening, just for anybody that's not familiar with who you are, how they can understand a little bit about what you're about.
Sure, yeah. So I am an entrepreneur. I've been an entrepreneur for decades, and I specifically work in the consumer product space. In addition to that, I consider myself a leader in the entrepreneur community, in the women's business community. So I've held various leadership roles with NAWBO San Diego, NAWBO California, which is the National Association of Women Business Owners. I'm really passionate about entrepreneurism, small businesses, women, kids, all the things that matter.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. When I first kind of became aware of who you were and that you existed out there, a lot of it was in connection with the business that you ran. And I think it seems like you were a very unique figure in that regard, because one, that you had a very a product oriented, an actual physical product business, especially at a time when so many people are doing tech and services and things like that. And so that seemed very unique, but also it seemed the business was doing well. A lot of people, I guess I don't want to cast aspersions, but there's a lot of us that are out here entrepreneurs. I'll call myself out. We're kind of barely getting by. There's some entrepreneurism, but you seem like you had a very solid business going for that too. So yeah.
Do you want me to say anything about
Yeah,
that?
say something about
I was like, is that a question?
I thought I had a question when I started. Then I was like, what was my question again? So, but that was just, that was how I knew. That was like one of the things I really remember about you. And I thought that was so interesting because, like you stood out in those ways relative to other people I was hearing about and meeting at the time.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And that's a valid point. And I say that because my business is in the top probably 0.05% of small businesses, let alone women-owned businesses. Women-owned businesses tend to have smaller revenue. But it's true that my business has succeeded more than most of my peers. And, there's a few reasons as to why I think that is that I could share if you want me to.
Yeah, I'm curious. Let's hear it.
The biggest thing, and this was something that was actually surprising to me because every entrepreneur believes in themselves. Well, sometimes they don't, right? Like sometimes that's a whole process.
Yeah.
I think for a lot of us, there's a process of actually believing in our own greatness. But let's say you've already gotten there, right? And you believe in yourself and you believe in your idea. Still, you approach it with these big goals. And of course, you want to be successful. You think you're going to be successful, but most businesses are not. And I think the reason mine was actually a bit surprising to me because even though I believed in it in general, what I didn't even understand myself is that I had created a product that was revolutionary. So it wasn't like another widget. It wasn't just like a slight variation on something that existed in the market. It wasn't a tchotchke. It wasn't trendy. It wasn't a cute talking point. It was something that was actually changing the physiology of the women who were wearing it. And so it became like this collector's item. And from that grew the community. And as soon as I sort of caught wind that my customers had certain things in common, that I felt like, hey, I should create a space for my customers to get to know each other and to create a community. That's the thing that really, really grew my business. So it was a combination of having a product that people didn't just want or think was cool or interesting, but they actually needed it.
Yeah.
And then they were able to connect with other people who felt the same way they did. And I grew the business that way.
Okay, interesting. I don't think I actually knew that, to be honest with you. So, and for the people at home, what was the product?
So it's called the Sash bag. And because I was like, I don't know, we're dealing with all the technical issues. I didn't even like grab one to show. But you can go online, you can look it up. It's at thesashbag.com. But it is an alternative to carrying a purse, which again sounds like, there's stuff out there like that. There's backpacks, there's fanny packs. This is completely different because not every woman who hates purses loves backpacks or fanny packs. Like there's a reason why most women who sort of reject the idea of carrying a handbag, there's a reason why, they're disorganized, they're uncomfortable, they're all these things. And so I had this idea that like, okay, what could I create that would magically keep all my things handy, but wasn't some different version of a handbag, something totally different. And I created it 14 years ago. So then there weren't as many options on the market. And not to toot my horn, but the Sash bag exploding on the market really opened the door for a lot of copycats and a lot of people to be like, oh, that's the thing that women want. So there's been other iterations and things that have come out since then. But 14 years ago, there was nothing like it on the market. And so it was this idea that you could have everything you needed. You didn't have to carry a purse. You didn't have to wear a stinking fanny pack or have a backpack on your back, which is not safe. And so it just was an idea like that had the right design, the right features, the right comfort, the right everything at the right time.
Yeah.
And that's really what it was.
Okay. And so you mentioned earlier, like the physiology of it. What was the physiology? Is that what you just said?
Okay. So you're a dude, and some of the guys listening to this, or people listening to this will also be. So imagine this, okay? So this is what women do. You probably have like a messenger bag or
I got a backpack.
Bag or something. Yeah. Imagine taking that literally everywhere you go. Taking it to the big idea night, taking it to the grocery store, taking it to the farmer's market, taking it to walk your dog. How long would you do that before you're like, get this thing off my back, or you'd like throw it in the trash, right? It's annoying, but it's this thing that women have been doing for centuries, is carrying everything. And I'm going to get woo-woo on you and talk about like the impact of that is beyond just the physical things that we carry. It's like the mental load, that women just like carry everything for our kids, our spouses, animals, all goes in this bag and we just like carry it around. And there's like an emotional and physical weight to that. And the physical one is real. You get lopsided, it hurts, they dig into your neck, they're uncomfortable. And so what I created was, it says, you'll see when you go online, those who are listening who don't know what it is, but it wraps around your torso and it has 10 pockets that stack up the front and the back. So imagine taking all that stuff that's like jumbled in a ball and spreading it out and then wrapping it around your body. The weight distribution is the key. You put it on and you forget you're wearing it. In fact, we call that the where did I put my purse phase. And it lasts a few weeks because as a woman, you're always conscious. You're always conscious of your bag. But when you start wearing the Sash bag, you're like, oh yeah, it's just so comfortable. And then you forget about it. And then you have that panic like, oh yeah, my purse is right here. So that's what it does. It like, you're not worrying about a purse anymore. You don't feel it on your body. You're so comfortable. So once you get used to that, you can't go back to carrying a purse. That is like putting handcuffs on. You're like, wait a second, I already took these off.
Wait, okay, it's so funny. And I'm so curious to ask you a bunch of questions about this because that seems like such a simple innovation. And I've had these ideas too, like, this is a good idea. Why isn't nobody else doing this? Maybe it's not a good idea. Maybe there's something I don't know. Was that part of, because it seems like so obvious to do. When you first came up with it, where you're like, well, why doesn't bags have pockets up here? And did you have questions about like whether you were onto something or not? Or did you like doubt yourself? Or were you feeling pretty confident about it? Or
yes and no. I mean, I did enough research because I actually had a handbag line before this that I thought I was solving a bunch of problems and I wasn't. It was just another handbag. So I had already gotten familiar with the industry. I had done a bunch of research. I knew that it was a new idea when it plopped in my head. And I'm telling you, it's one of those big magic moments. If you've read that book, that ideas are entities and they find hosts. It's Elizabeth Gilbert's book. But anyway, that's what it felt like. It felt like this idea was just like, and it just like plopped in my head. And so when I first saw the idea in my head, I was like, ooh, that's good. That is good. Like I knew it was a good idea. What I didn't know is how many other people would agree with me. And so I waited until I had enough people wanting one before I decided to actually produce them and then go into business. And that's a whole other story, that whole process of getting it off the ground. But so I did know that it was unique and different. But after manufacturing it, I don't necessarily think that there's anyone else out there who came up with the exact design that I did. I really don't. I mean, I've never seen anything like it, but I understood pretty quickly why, if someone did, they wouldn't want to produce it. And it's because it's incredibly hard to manufacture. Because of the number of pockets. So there's 10 pockets. So think of anything you own that has 10 pockets. Nothing, right? Plus, it has 2 built-in wallets. And each one of those wallets has a hidden cash pocket behind it. And it has 3 credit card slots with RFID protection. Okay, so it's complicated design. And it's got all these layers of leather. So there's one section of the bag where you've got 8 layers of leather that you're stitching through. You're doing a top stitch through that. And creating a top, like most handbags also don't have top stitching. They have the stitching inside and the black, the product is flipped inside out. Much easier than doing a visible stitch, a top stitch on the edge of the product. So all of these details make it incredibly difficult to manufacture, which makes it expensive to manufacture. Which is why probably nobody wanted to do a bag like this before because it's a lot.
That must have been a trip because I don't know, when you started it, I'm guessing you had some notion of like what it's going to take to actually manufacture this and create it at scale and stuff. But I'm sure there's probably all kinds of things you discovered along the way too, right? Where like, oh, this can't be stitched that way, or it can, but it's going to cost like that much more. And is that worth it or what?
I mean, the biggest thing, because I could talk about this for 1,000 hours, but the biggest thing, I'll just keep it simple, is I figured out that I couldn't work with handbag manufacturers. That was the biggest lesson. Because when I was trying to work with handbag manufacturers, they have a certain way of working. They have a certain type of leather that they're used to working with. And I'm using lambskin. I'm using fashion leather. With the Sash bag, you have to think about how it fits, how it wears. You don't have to think about that with a purse. So it wasn't until I met my now manufacturer who I've been working with for the last 13 years, he was a leather jacket manufacturer. So when
Okay.
I
All
met
right.
him and I saw his leather jackets, I was like,
Mhm.
oh, the stitching and everything was exactly what I was looking for. So I was like, okay, I
Yeah.
was going about this the wrong way. Yeah.
Interesting. For a short while, I worked for a friend that wanted to get his own sort of like entrepreneurial business going on, assisting inventors with like the manufacturing and like consulting for that. And so it didn't go very far, but it was fascinating to learn about the way how the manufacturing process factors into inventing, because there's certain ways to mold plastic and they can only be like you have sort of two shots to mold it, like that way and that way. And if you can't make what you want out of those two things, then like you can't, as you go like side to side and up and down. If you can't make what you want out of those two like presses, then you can't make it. It's just not an effective way to make it. And the other example he gave, how like we have our idea of innovation wrong. And he used the example of camelbacks, because people come like, oh, I've got an idea, like a backpack with a water thing in it, and then you could drink out of it. And yeah, sure, good idea. But he's like, well, the good idea is like, how do you make it so you can like drink out of the spigot when you want? And how do you make it so it doesn't leak? And then how do you make it so you get that like nozzle piece to cost 10 cents each instead of like 32 cents each? And like, that's the innovation more than anything else. So it's so I'm hearing that reflection a little bit there.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's not easy for everyone, but it's fun to come up with ideas,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Like we all have 5 million of them.
Mm-hmm.
And I think there's sometimes a little bit of judgment, like when people have ideas and they get excited and then they don't come to fruition.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, well, it takes a lot more than people
Mm-hmm.
think,
Mm-hmm.
for something to go from in your head into a consumer's hand.
Mm-hmm.
That process it's no joke, man. It's quite complicated.
Totally. Well, then like and get them to buy it.
Right. Yeah.
Because that's like a whole other piece of the puzzle too.
Yeah. And as small business owners, I mean, we do all the pieces.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
We put all those pieces together.
Yeah. Well, I imagine that like you're one of those people that people come to looking for advice a lot about starting a business, right?
Yeah.
Is there like one piece of advice you catch yourself telling people a lot?
Yeah. Do not. You can tell it's on the tip of my tongue.
Yeah.
Do not invest any time, money, anything until you've gotten validation for your product idea.
Mm-hmm.
And validation means people who do not love you and do not know you are willing to part with their money to buy what you're selling.
Yeah.
Until you've proven that over and over and over, do not do anything else and invest in anything.
Yeah. That minimum viable product, put that out there. Yeah.
I mean, other than investing in like, samples or whatever you need to like get in front of people.
So we feel have like launched products and they started Kickstarter. Is that what you were saying? Yeah.
So a lot of times people come to me, they've already launched their product. They've put together a Kickstarter or some crowdfunding campaign. And they're like, okay, I want your advice. What do I do now? I'm like, okay, get in a time machine and like go do all these other things first because you are way ahead of yourself. Yeah.
Yeah. One of the things I've had to sort of learn in my entrepreneurial journey is like, just validate ideas. I think I've always early in my journey, I heard the concept of like fail fast. And so I really adopted that one. Okay, fail fast, like go for it and find out if it's going to work or not real quickly. But yeah, it is a whole different thing to go from like, I have this idea that my friends all like how do I reach another set of people outside my friends and get them to buy into this also. So
yeah. And I think if it's a service or some kind of online business that you're creating or something, it's easier to do that, to like iterate and fail and pivot and da. And with products, I think sometimes people get sucked into this idea that like you have to invest, you have to hit your minimum order quantities, you have to do all this stuff. And it's like, no. There is a way. There is a way to take little baby steps, and you can't skip over those. Yeah.
What were some of the baby steps that you took that didn't come to mind that you remember that were really helpful?
Yeah. I mean, I started out by literally sewing samples by hand in my backyard. I had a couple friends who know how to sew. We got our sewing machines together and we were literally in my backyard sewing samples. So those were the first bags that I made. And so I didn't go straight into production or even straight to a factory. I wanted to see if my idea was viable just based on those, whatever I could create myself. And I took those handmade samples to a trade show and I got in front of buyers and found that, they didn't really care that the stitching wasn't perfect. They liked the idea and they were willing to place purchase orders.
Cool.
And so that was great. But then that also is still like one test, right? So then I went out and I made, once I had that validation, I went and I made 100 bags. I didn't go straight to 3,000 or 5,000 or 10,000 or whatever. I made 100 of them. I found a very small factory. And yes, I was not making money on them at the time. I was just...
But you weren't losing money on a lot more.
Exactly. I was trying to test the idea. I think I was making like maybe $5 profit on each one or something silly. But it was enough to get the idea out there and then get feedback. Yeah. And if you look at the very first design versus what's on the market now, it's totally different. And I did that small batch production for the first year and a half. And each time I did production, I would increase the quantity just a little bit and I would tweak the design too. So before I got to the point where I was producing thousands of units, I had tested it on hundreds of people.
Yeah. That's such an important thing that like I've realized I'm on an entrepreneurial journey too of like, because when I first started, I was a little bit obsessive about having it all figured out before I press go. And I realized so much like you just got to do it and put it out there. And you're going to be shifting. You're going to be changing gears. You're going to see all this stuff that you didn't see before that like just little tweaks you've got to make to your design, your process, the way you're pitching it and all that stuff. So yeah, that's interesting. But then you started, didn't you sell it like farmers markets and craft fairs and stuff a lot at first too?
Yeah. And this is what I tell people is get out in front of people however you can. Because, so I sold at the Little Italy Farmers Market. We actually still have a booth there. I mean, I don't do it myself anymore, but I did the Little Italy Farmers Market every friggin' Saturday, like waking up at 5 o'clock in the morning, getting out there, setting up my booth. I did that for 2.5 years. And I also did the San Diego County Fair, LA County Fair, State Fair, so the Solana Beach, the Fiesta del Sol, like every market fest thing I could get my bags in front of people. I did that for 2.5 years and it was so incredibly valuable because number one, I was making money. I mean, I made hundreds of thousands of dollars doing that.
Yeah.
And the other thing is I learned everything there is to know about my customer. Like I know what questions she's going to ask, what other brand she wears, what she's going to buy first, why she wants the bag, any of her objections. So by the time I launched my online marketing, I mean, my company went to multi-millions, like practically overnight. I mean, I'm not exaggerating because my marketing was it was so good because I knew exactly who I was talking to and exactly what to say and how she thinks and operates and everything about her.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, that's like, just being able to have that face-to-face contact. And you did that was 2 years before you launched the national online website. Is that what you said?
Yeah. Wow. 2.5 years I spent selling face-to-face before I did my first Kickstarter campaign. Yeah.
Did you have the vision the whole time you were doing that? Or were you just like, did it sort of show up later as you're like, oh, I bet you I could take this online? Or where was your head as far as like where this was all going to go when you like, right before you set up your first booth?
Yeah. So I love that question because I haven't thought about this in a while. When I first started this business, I came from the world of retail. So I've worked in consumer product manufacturing for 23 years. I've worked across multiple industries, but I've worked for companies. I worked for, as an employee for some of these larger companies that are making products that are being sold in Costco, Target, Macy's, everywhere. I worked for a publishing company that sold in a Barnes and Noble. Like that's the world I came from as a product creator. And so that's what I had in mind. My original plan was like, I'm going to go into Macy's and Nordstrom and I'm going to do that. And if you would have asked me, in fact, the first time someone suggested to me that I take the bags to a farmer's market, I was like, are you crazy?
Yeah, farmer's market.
I don't think so. Nobody's going to spend $150 on a bag. Like they're there to buy eggs and kale, they're not going to care. But the thing that was so brilliant about it is that women were already doing something that their bag was annoying them.
Yeah, totally.
So they would walk by my booth and they're like, what is that? And I'd be like, just give me your purse, put this on. There you go. So that was not my strategy. That was not my plan.
Yeah.
In fact, I was consulting with someone. I had not hired her, but I was thinking about hiring her to help me get into retail. And when I was having the conversation, just the initial kind of discovery conversation with her, she said, you need to just get out there and sell your product. Like, you're not ready for retail. And I'm like, no. I know this space. I know what I'm doing. that was the best advice I could have gotten. And that's why I continue to give that advice, because I wouldn't have done well trying to get my product into retail. In fact, now that I've gone a complete other way, I'm so glad I did, because direct to consumer is really where it's at. And now, because retail has changed so much, there's so many brands that have been selling into retail for decades that are now trying to figure out, like, how do they get direct to consumer? How do they build their own customer communities? I mean, there's not many brands that have the type of community that I've built online. Very, very few. I mean, none that I think really capture the magic of the Sash community. There's only one brand I've seen that is similar, but that's what, they're trying to do now, is like, how do we build our own customers? Because when you sell through retail, those customers don't belong to you. They belong to the retailer. Yes. I mean, even on Amazon, So there are some direct sales channels online now, but still the customer doesn't belong to you. TikTok, Amazon, these are examples of the customer still belongs to them. If you sell through to saying QVC, any of that, not only do the customers not belong to you, but you have to, the terms are so intense. Like everything is in favor of the retailer. And it always will be, because they have the power, because they have the customers. So customer is king. Whoever has the customers has the power. And so you want your own customers. So I'm really glad I went that way all those years ago. Yeah.
All right. I want to come back to the community piece, but first I want to ask you too, like, how did you feel being the salesperson back then? Was that comfortable and natural for you? Or was that like a big struggle for you? Were you scared about that? Or how was that for you?
I mean, it was tiring. That's what I'll say. Like, of course, nobody can sell this bag better than I can. I've tried like outsourcing, hiring, like I've tried hiring marketing people. Like, nobody can do it like I can, because it's my product, and I like selling it. And I never would have considered myself a salesperson, but I am like a person. I'm a people person. Like, I like being in community. I like being at the farmer's market. It's fun. And I like being around. Like the people I just have so much respect for anyone who gets up in the morning and wants to go out and share what they've created with people in the community. It's just such a vibe. So I actually enjoyed that, but it did get hard after a while. After a while, I was like, okay, if I have to talk about this bag one more time, I'm going to lose it. So I definitely got burnt out, and I got to the point where I could tell that I was ready to stop having conversations with one person at a time and take those conversations onto a much bigger platform.
Okay. Well, part of the reason I ask too is, like, just in my own conversations, that being a salesperson, being willing to sell something is a big sticking point for a lot of people, and asking for money, really, like, seeing that moment. Cause you see that moment, you're like they're on the fence. She's thinking about it, and like giving that little nudge to get them to buy. It doesn't come natural to do that. And a lot of what comes natural is to like not do that for a lot of people,
Yeah. I mean, I could see that, but
that's not you.
I was going to say, this might be, I might be totally wrong. This might be some like misgeneralization, but I feel like if you actually love the thing you're creating, you won't have a problem selling it.
Yeah, for sure.
If you don't believe in it, then how would anyone else? And really, that's all sales is. It's just like expressing your belief in the thing that you're sharing with them and hoping that they see the value.
Yeah. I don't know. I guess this is like what I work with people on. It is a thing. It's a lot of times, especially in more mission-driven spaces too. So I don't know. It's awesome that you're doing it though. And I think it's just such an interesting, rich place of understanding, of like owning your leadership, and like, I've created this cool thing. I want you to have it. I want you to buy this because I believe in this. And
I also really believe it's going to make their life better.
Yeah,
like, you're going to thank me. You're not going to be like, ooh, should I spend the money? You're going to be like, oh my gosh, thank you for creating this. That's what I hear. Yeah,
for sure. As much as I love doing this podcast, sad truth of it all is that doesn't pay the bills. It actually costs me money to make this podcast. But that's okay. I love doing it, so we're doing it. What does pay the bills for me is I help individuals and organizations leverage the power of storytelling for leadership and persuasion. This is the work I do, and I want to tell you about it real quick here. For organizations, a lot of times the work is very much focused on fundraising for nonprofits, or developing a narrative strategy for the important messages that they want to get out in their campaigns. It can also be about developing leadership and communication skills amongst the team that you've already got working within your organization. For individuals, a lot of my work revolves around helping develop a narrative-based communication approach for those high-leverage career moments that come up from time to time, like giving a public talk, interviewing for a new position, integrating into a new role at a new company, or making the leap for yourself to jump into entrepreneurship, and how you talk about the work that you do with the external audiences there too. These are very much the moments that can have a huge impact on your career. And by utilizing storytelling and narrative, you can not only communicate a more resonant message about what it is you're doing, but also one that's going to stick. So if this is intriguing to you and you want to know more, you can check out my website, storycultureconsulting.com. I'll have a free tool on there that's available for download, or you can check out the show notes too. I'll have the same tool down there that you can grab too. Once again, that's storycultureconsulting.com. And now back to the show. Well, so tell us about the community, because I think that's interesting. I want to kind of segue into the communities you've created since then also. How familiar was that to you to create the online community, or were you learning on the fly, and how'd that all go?
I would say with almost everything in this business, it's been some combination of me listening to other people and just kind of following my intuition. None of this I read anywhere or learned. I didn't even go to college. Like, I've never taken a business class. None of that. You know, I started working when I was a kid and I just never stopped.
Yeah.
And I've always worked in creative professions, so I have a creative brain. And when the community came about, sort of as a couple things. So one, I started advertising on Facebook before it was Meta, doing Facebook advertising in 2016. And then it was so easy. The platform was easy. You just like put up an ad, put some money in it. I was getting a 12 to 13x return. Just doing it myself. Just figuring it out. And rode that wave as long as I could until things started to change. And then as ROASs dipped and things started to change, I was like, okay, I need to start figuring out different ways to reach my customers and not just relying on ads. And at the same time, I noticed that the bag was starting to get out there more, right? Because for the first 2.5 years, I was selling to people in California or people who were visiting California. Occasionally, I'd go to another state for a market or fair or something. But still, at that point in time, there was only thousands of people, maybe tens of thousands that had a Sash bag. And once I did that online, my first Kickstarter really got it out online in 2016. By 2017, it was I think later in the year, it was starting to get out there more, right? So I started to notice people coming to my Facebook page and leaving comments and reviews and wanting to share pictures of themselves and then commenting on each other's pictures and things like that. So that's when the little light bulb went off and I was like, okay, these women clearly want to connect with each other. So it wasn't like a strategy. It was just noticing what was happening and going, oh, let me create a place for them to do that. So that's when I created the Sash community, and it went pretty quickly. Within the first couple months, it had over 4,000 people in it.
Wow.
Yeah. And so that's when I was like, okay, this is clearly a thing, right? Where these women, they have this thing in common, which is their love of the Sash bag. But it was more than that, right? Because the Sash bag, like I said earlier on, it's not just a product. It's something that became a lifestyle. So now they're sharing tips and tricks and ways. Instead of a strap, I sometimes switch out for a scarf. And look where I went with my bag. Look where I went with my bag. And then it just kind of grew from there to now there's 22,000 women in this private Facebook group that just literally just to talk about their Sash bags and share their pictures and adventures. And that the Facebook group is how I've been able to raise millions of dollars on crowdfunding to continue growing my production, because I'm involved. And this is the thing I hear over and over and over from people. I can't believe that you are actually in the community, talking to people.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. Yes, I have a lot of other things to do. I have ads to run and employees to manage and all this stuff. But the number one and most important thing is my customers. So I always make time to be in that community, commenting on people's pictures, answering their questions. And so then when I need to create a new product line, I have a relationship with them. I just go and I ask them, what do you want? What colors are you guys thinking about next? Is there something you want me to change about the product line? They tell me, and then I do it, and then they buy it. It's just this nice little ecosystem that I created completely on accident. But since I did, these are the things that I encourage other people to do, because I see how much it works and how beneficial it is, not just for you as a business owner, but for the customers as well, to have that connection.
Is it still on Facebook? Is it still a Facebook group? Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. It's called the Sash bag community.
Okay. Do you get concerned that it's because, Facebook's sort of losing market a lot, right? Or
I don't have concerns
okay.
about that kind of stuff. I don't know. I mean, I could keep myself up at night worrying about stuff like that. But
Mhm.
I mean, if something changes on Facebook and I don't know, well, now the group gets shut down or
Mhm.
whatever,
Mhm.
well, I'd figure out the next
Yeah,
thing.
yeah. Well, I mean, that's like a thing too, right? To be like, well, I'll just figure it out.
Right. That's what I've been doing up until this point. It's worked out all right. So.
Yeah, totally. One of the things that comes up a lot when I'm talking to entrepreneurs too is just like supporting themselves in these early phases and stuff. Was that like a struggle for you, or is that like you have okay?
Yeah. Oh my gosh. No, I have no problem talking about anything, just so you know.
Yeah, I figured. But
Okay, so when I will take your question a little bit further and share that the business that I had before this completely destroyed my life. And I just believed in it too much. I thought the product was so good and I couldn't understand why everyone else didn't think that, right? And so I just like kept going at it until I had no car. My car had gotten repossessed. I had nowhere to live. I was couch surfing. I had a 5-year-old son and I was pregnant with my daughter, and my life was let's just say rock bottom, right? So then I come up with this idea for the Sash bag, and I'm like, okay, that's nice. Brain, stop. Like we can't do that right now. And I ended up making one for myself though, because the idea just kept like itching and itching. So I just made one for myself. I wore it out. And I had multiple people comment on it and ask me about it. And I was like, oh, damn it. I'm going to start another business. But
were you thinking you'd like go get a job at that point? Or is that where your mind was?
Yeah. So I got contract work. So my first business went under in 2010. So this was not a good economic time. So it was hard to find any kind of work, but I managed to get a contract with a PR company in Hawaii, of all places, doing communications and graphic design and marketing and all this stuff, because that's my background. And so I was doing that when I launched the company. But, and this is not something I would recommend to everyone because of the circumstance I was in. I worked full time, but I also got an investor pretty early on. So all the things I'm saying about like, test this and do that. Yes, all of that, but also because I had nothing to put into it. I had nothing. Not only did I have nothing to invest in my own business, I was barely taking care of myself. I was a single mom trying to make ends meet, doing contract work, trying to get this business going. So I took on an investor pretty early on. She's someone who's still involved in the company. I mean, it was a great thing. It worked out great for us. I normally wouldn't recommend someone taking on an investor like that early on, but it happened to work out for me, as most things have with this business, just because I think this business is meant to be. But so I had to not only work, but also have an investor in the beginning, because I don't come from generational wealth, or I don't have a husband or anyone that's like helping me. So I had to find that from someone else.
Yeah, totally. It's so funny. One of the things I've realized recently, just from my own kind of entrepreneurial journey too, is that I've always kind of been scraping by and doing it. And I finally had some things go well enough to where I was able to like reinvest some money back in a way that like I hadn't been able to before. And it was wild how much of a difference that made. And it just like opened my eyes to, I was thinking I was failing as an entrepreneur because I wasn't getting the kind of returns that I was hoping to, or making the kind of money. And then I realized, if I had more money to throw at this and solve some problems, things could have been taking off so much more than they had in the past. And it's such an interesting dynamic to realize that just how much having some money helps.
Yeah. And, there are some other entrepreneurs I know locally who have products, and we'll have these conversations where they'll be like, well, I want to do, like, how do I do what you did? And there is some risk involved, right? It's either the risk of borrowing money, of taking out a second mortgage or whatever, because, and I don't want to make it as simple as like, it takes money to make money. Like, no, it's not that, but you do have to get your product in front of people. And there's going to be an investment there, unless you want to do what I did the first 2.5 years, which is go out and sell face to face to one person at a time. Then you're going to build yourself a cute little lifestyle business, but you're not going to be able to scale. And so you have to be comfortable with risk in order to get investment in one way or another, whether it's borrowing it from an investor, or getting an investor, borrowing it, whatever you do. But yeah, I mean, people often are impressed when they see how big the company has gotten, how much revenue we're making. But if they look at my financials, they're like, oh, like I spend over $1 million a year on advertising. So I don't just make all this money
Totally.
magically. Like
Yeah.
we invest a lot into advertising.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, that's been the shift for me too, is putting some money into advertising. And it's
Yeah,
like it
it
never,
works.
Yeah,
It
it's so
works.
funny. Yeah,
And if
totally.
it doesn't work, this is why when you said that,
Mm-hmm.
and I the other night I was like, yeah, I was like so happy about the fact that so many people raised their hand when you asked, hey, who's here because they saw my ad.
Yeah. Yeah. Totally. Yeah.
Because when you get it right, ads should work. And this is one of the things that I'm just gonna put a little plug in that I get a lot is people investing in advertising and not getting a return.
Yeah.
And if that's happening, stop it, please. I think it's good marketing ads, people that have sold the idea that it like takes a while. You have to do all this build up and this and that and da da da. Like, no, if your ads aren't making money, please stop spending money
Yeah.
on
Totally.
them.
Yeah.
Please. Yeah.
Well, and I will say this too, that like it took some trial and error to get to this, and
Yeah.
thinking like how the whole business plan works in correlation with the ads and everything too. I've probably spent $4 or $5 grand in different ventures, advertising towards different aspects of my business or ventures that just didn't work or didn't, maybe kind of came back even, but not up. And yeah, I never say it's like wasted money. I learned a lot. And now I'm at a point where I'm like, okay, I'm like being a little bit more judicious with it and it's working well. I guess but I kind of keep going back to that thing of like, if that was also like iterations of plans and ideas I was able to test and get feedback through advertising that it take forever to get that otherwise. And again, if you like have some money, if you come from a place of wealth, or if you're like comparing yourself to other entrepreneurs that are, more successful, but like maybe we don't necessarily know what their situation is, but if they have some wealth to begin with, like they're going to have a much easier time validating their ideas and moving forward with their plans. And that doesn't necessarily mean that you're not failing, but it takes investment, just like you said. So yeah. Well, okay. Yeah. You've sort of shifted into a lot of like leadership work and coaching and working with women, and also towards getting politically, I guess, outspoken, maybe is that the right way to phrase it, or involved. And I guess I see this sort of through line as that community building, but I don't know if does that feel that same way for you, or is this these just things that appeal to you and you've just gotten involved and started going with it?
Yeah, I mean, I've always had a passion for leadership. I mean, when I was in high school, I was in student government. I always found myself gravitating toward positions of leadership. And when I was an employee, I always wanted a promotion. I wasn't like, oh, I want to make more money. I mean, yes, of course I do, but it was more like I'm just like that. I'm a go-getter. I want to lead teams. I don't want to follow someone. And so having my own company obviously allows me to do that, but I'm always like seeking more growth, more experiences. And so several years ago, after running the company for however many years, I've been running this company for 14 years now.
Yeah, good for you.
That's a long time for someone who likes variety. So yeah, I started dipping my toe into some other industries and opportunities. But yeah, so I spent 3.5 years in an ontological leadership and coach training program, which I absolutely loved. I loved that work so much. And then that kind of opened the door for me to explore my leadership more, which is how I got involved in the National Association of Women Business as a member, and then as a board member, and then as president of San Diego, and then president of California. And that is also how I've gotten involved with advocacy, which again is something that I've always done a little bit of. Like I've volunteered for campaigns and I've phone banked and helped fundraise. I've done stuff like that. But these connections that I've made through NABO, which is a women's business organization, but the thing that is unique to them, that's different from most women's business organizations, is that they focus on advocacy. So it's not just about like, oh, come here and grow your business. It's let's actually try to help our elected officials create legislation that benefits women business owners. So we're always looking at what is existing, what's out there now that could change or needs to change to help women grow their businesses, or even be able to start businesses, raise funds, all of those sorts of things. And so through that, because of all the things I was going through with my business this past year with tariffs and all of that, I just sort of like swooped right in as a contact with some of the senators that were trying to pass legislation on how tariffs were treated with small businesses. And then that kind of led to like all these media interviews, and it just kind of like blew up. And it has been really interesting. And so I've gotten like more and more involved in it. So now I'm like, trying to kind of focus more on that. Because it's interesting to me, and I'm very passionate about it.
Yeah. Okay. What's the path you're seeing for yourself with regards to that? Or is it just like, are you looking like that way, or are you just trying to address what's going on now and what needs to happen? Or
Yeah, I mean, I see myself getting more involved. I'd like to run for public office at some point. I'm not 100% convinced that I will. I actually had a little exploratory committee going this last election cycle. I was considering running, but because of all this stuff that's going on with my business and the lawsuit and all of that, which is a whole other topic, the advice I got from them was like, we think you're an amazing candidate. We think you definitely should run. And you should wait till all that stuff's done because it's like, that's a lot. So maybe I will, maybe I won't. I joke, but like not really, that I'm either going to run for public office or move out of the country because I'm not a half in, half out person. It's like, if I am going to get involved in something, I want to get all the way, or I have to just be like, la, 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 because it'll drive me crazy.
Yeah. Well, so what are some of the advocacy things that are going on right now for NAMBO? Did I say that right?
It's NABO. Yeah.
NABO. Okay.
Yeah. So, their main piece of legislation that they're trying to get through is redefining, or not redefining, but adding a distinction to the Small Business Administration for a micro business. So that if you are a micro business, that you are not in the same category as a small business, because don't get me started on the SBA, because I will go off for an hour. But just the one thing I will say is that the way that they define a small business is all over the place. And sometimes it's by employee, sometimes it's by revenue. And if you are an energy company, you can have, I think it's like up to 1,100 employees and be considered a small business. But if you're a retailer and you make more than $5,000, you're not a small business. So it's just a little bit wacky. But the majority of women-owned businesses are under $1 million in revenue. And so what they want to create is this distinction of micro business, so that if you are a micro business, most of those micro businesses are the main income in their family, and the majority of their money goes into their communities. So, they're trying to create special distinctions, special like funding and programs and things for those micro businesses that aren't part of the whole umbrella of the SBA and competing with these, frankly, large companies for the same resources.
Oh, interesting. Well, that's fascinating too, because where my mind goes when you talk about that is when there's conversations about minimum wage, the first one that comes up, but like just a lot of the fees that get added on to businesses. And it's, small business owners, mom and pops can't afford this stuff. And I've known that like this sort of small business thing is kind of bullshit, because I've seen like so many things that are categorized as small business. That's not a small business. That's like a pretty significant business. Because when people say small businesses, I think what people see in their minds is like, like family owned restaurant or something like that.
Like a little shop owner.
Yeah, a little shop owner. Yeah, something like that. And that's not it. What those are is probably more like what you're describing, the micro businesses, right?
Right.
And like a lot of these policies, like as much as I want employees to be making a better minimum wage and have their employers offer them things that they should offer them, or like a living wage and all that stuff, I get why, as a business owner myself, like I can't do that. I can't accommodate that. And I don't think it's sort of fair to put that on businesses that are that small, especially if they find somebody that's like a family friend or somebody that's willing to work for less because it works for them and you can make it work. And so I guess that's where I don't know if that's included in the way you're talking about this at all or not, but it is like where my mind goes as far as like that distinction between micro businesses and small businesses. So
I mean, that's a huge part of it. And my hot button issue has been, and still is, I mean, frankly, the tariff, a lot of them got cut back down because of this Supreme Court ruling, but still it's a thing. Like, I'm glad that it became like this big national conversation, because now I and many others like me have had an opportunity to talk about it and educate people on how it all works. But one of the reasons why I think they failed at passing some legislation that exempted small businesses from tariffs is because of the broad definition of a small business, and of how, and also small businesses in California, we have to call anyone essentially, because of AB 5, we have to call them employees, not contractors. Whereas There can be a large company in another state that just has all these contractors. So like they only have like so many employees. Oh, now they're a small business. So I can see why anyone would look at this bill and go, well, no, we can't exempt all small businesses from paying tariffs because that's like half of the commerce of the United States, right? But my approach would have been, and what I was trying to do, but I am not in charge of the world, was to make it, I think the amount of tariff you should pay should depend on your annual import value.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm a micro business or even a small business and my import value is under $5 million a year, then maybe I shouldn't be paying tariffs because that tariff, proportionally to my overall budget, is much, much bigger than a large company that is mass producing, and their tariffs are going to be a much smaller percentage of their overall financial concerns. So, yeah, I mean, I could go on and on and on.
Now I'm curious to ask you, if you did run for office, what are your thoughts on, like, if you're open to talking about this, and maybe we're just like planting seeds for your eventual opponents to dig up when the time comes, what kind of campaign you'd run or how you'd go about it, or like what would be the sort of pitch that you'd offer? You just said, like, if I was in charge of the world. So like, yeah, what would that look like?
Well, I have thought about this and I have created Maslow's hierarchy of needs.
Yeah.
Okay. Somebody better not copy me. I'm just saying right now, this is my idea. Stay away from it. But I actually created a political hierarchy of needs. And I put a lot of thought into it. I did actually write about it, but I don't think a lot of people read it. And that's fine because that's just sort of like testing the message. But I think one of the biggest challenges we have in our communities and as a whole public is that we don't agree, right? Like we don't agree on how to go about things a lot of the times. But there are a lot of, if you look at the top of the pyramid, right, there are things that we can all agree on that are important. Nobody wants to breathe dirty air. Nobody wants turtles to like strangle themselves on. Nobody wants any of those things to happen. But we fundamentally disagree on like where the government's place is in that. And so my thought is, okay, this political hierarchy of needs is all about building trust in your community and allowing the community, the innovation that happens to come from those community conversations and having like community innovation connected with politics. And I'm speaking very vaguely and broadly, but basically the idea is legislators are out there creating laws and innovators are out there creating things, creating solutions, solving problems. What if they were working together more? Well, one of the reasons why they probably don't work together more is because there's no trust, right? So you have to build the trust. So this is where like the hierarchy comes in. It's about like establishing a basis of integrity. Like what are the things that community members are looking for in order to trust the people who are in charge? Then building that trust with the communities, and then working with the communities to create innovation, having that innovation go the other way, where it's like, hey, these are the ways we want to solve some of the problems in our community because we're the ones who live here and we know, look at all these great ideas we have from brilliant people who are in our community and like have it kind of work the other direction. Now, I know that's like a big lofty goal, but that's sort of what I see. But maybe chipping away at it by choosing one or two issues is an example and trying to build that community trust and innovation.
Yeah, totally. That trust piece is so interesting because, I think there is like a lack of trust with sort of any institutions right now. I went to university school. I've got a certain amount of privilege. Even if I don't have a lot of money, I've got a lot of the other privileges. And so I'm willing to sort of trust institutions more than somebody else would in that regard. But just that trust is like, if you don't have that trust, what can you do? And so
there's no trust. There's zero. There's zip.
Totally. Yeah. And basically people are coming in and they're getting trust by being the outsider and talking shit on the system and proposing some wild ideas for making changes, which, to different degrees or not. It's so funny. I was listening to some podcast yesterday and it was like interviewing young men outside that UFC fight at the White House. And people, they asked them like, do you like Trump? Yes or no? And they're like, I used to, he did this, he did that. And they were asking like, well, who else do you like? What other politicians do you like? And a lot of them said that Zoran. Just like completely different politics, but they just like the outsider thing that he was doing and like just the way he was pushing back on business as usual. And I think there's just such an interest in that right now. I'll say for myself, I looked at the returns after the last primary and saw that like so many local Congress people basically ran unopposed in the primary, and was like, man, like just get in there and somebody get in there and just throw bombs, just throw bombs. And it would, I don't know. I had this overly optimistic view that it would like get traction and just scare the bejesus out of them. I don't know if it would or not, but if I ran, that's what I would do.
Just blow it all up.
Well, no, that like just come out fighting. You know, I don't know. I think as a sort of communications, by putting my communications consultant hat on, and I think about how so many of the issues that we're talking about as a society, they end up getting like sort of coded very left, right. And that coding is convenient that sort of language coding is very convenient to keep certain ideas down and elevate certain ideas up. And it gets sort of reinforced in the media, but then also you just sort of see straight up a lot of kind of progressive ideas will pop out of conservative media every once in a while, right? Mm-hmm. When it's put in their coded language, it works. And so I was like, how could you talk about progressive ideas in a conservative coded way? How could you...
I think that's about relatability.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and again, it's like we actually care about a lot of the same things.
Totally. Yeah.
Technically.
Right. Mm-hmm.
But it's become this thing of like, who can convince more people that their way to do it is better? And that's all, like whoever can like get more people over onto this side. And so the change is the thing that like everyone can agree on. Mm-hmm. And then it's just who can convince more people that their way is the way.
Yeah.
Instead of asking the community, what do you think is the way? Mm-hmm. And trying to craft something through partnership.
Yeah.
Idealistic for sure.
Yeah.
But
that sounds like you have a history of doing this very effectively, though, of like people found your bags and they liked it and you took feedback and you figured out how to incorporate it. And in the end of the day, you were still the boss. You're like, my plan goes, but I listened. Sure. I listened to y'all and I incorporated it and
Yeah, but that's how you build trust, right? Like my customers trust me, even if something goes haywire, which it has many times, production stops, tariffs go in place, whatever the thing is. They know I'm not going to disappear. Yeah. I'm not going to do anything wacky. Yeah. I've got that relationship.
Showing up in the Facebook group.
Exactly.
Yeah, totally.
Even when I feel like hiding because I'm frustrated or embarrassed about something going bad, I still show up.
Yeah, totally. Well, this has been lovely. And I think we're kind of like, probably a good time to wrap up here.
And we didn't even talk about what we talked about in the
beginning. Well, that happens so often on here, which I don't know. It's fine. Well, because when you just started talking, you just dropped some things about the way you got your business going. And I just think that's so important because I know that so many people that we both know, and I know the audience for this, I mean, it's very similar audience for the events also. Big Idea Night, look it up online. It is a lot of people that do want to have some entrepreneurial ambitions and do want to realize a lot of maybe what we need to do and a lot of changes that need to happen do sort of need to happen in the context of like a business and businesses changing the way they're operating, rethinking the way they're operating, and being successful, or at least getting by as a small business or a micro business. and just like, I realized that you've got such a perspective on the realities of doing that and basically doing that with nothing to start with, which is just a really valuable perspective. So I appreciate that you were for that.
Thanks. And I, to your point, I'm very passionate about this because, like I said earlier, I use the term having the customers gives you the power. We're talking about retail, but really more money in the hands of small business owners is good for all of us.
Yes, totally.
So if you are a small business owner, an entrepreneur, aspiring or stuck or growing or doing amazing, I always want to have these conversations. So I'm glad that's where this went.
Yeah, cool. Right on. All right. So people, they want to get in touch with you. They want to support your eventual political campaign. How do they find you?
Well, they can find me on, I'm on social media. Nichole, it's a Nichole with an H. Nichole MacDonald, MAC. It's like the farm, not the restaurant. Nichole MacDonald. Just look me up. It's like Nichole.MacDonald on Instagram and Facebook, and then Nichole MacDonald on LinkedIn. So find NicholeMacDonald.com.
Okay. So we'll put it in the show notes and all that good stuff too.
Meet up, yeah.
Yeah, cool. Well, Nichole, thanks so much for coming on here and talking to us.
Thanks for inviting me, Nathan.
right. Thank you so much for Nichole MacDonald for joining us on the podcast today. One of the things that really stayed with me from this conversation is that entrepreneurship isn't really about having great ideas. It's about building trust, like both trust with yourself and the people you aim to serve and the business you're creating. And also it's like listening carefully to what people need and want and staying close to the people that you're trying to serve. Because ultimately, like, that's what it is. We live in this sort of capitalist world where our ways of serving each other are compensated through money. I think there's a lot of value to realizing that businesses do serve a role in helping other people in this world. And so I thought that was really valuable to hear her perspective and like hear her journey in building this business, because I don't know, hopefully you saw what I was talking about. Like a lot of business owners, successful business owners aren't quite as forthcoming with the ups and downs that they experienced as Nichole was here. So I really appreciated that again in this episode. If you enjoyed this podcast, please share with a friend, subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts, and there'll be a newsletter at some point. I keep teasing that's going to happen one of these days. And for more conversations about leadership, community, and the story shaping our future, we hope to see you back on the next Braver New Worlds. All right. Thanks so much.